Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton,
I'm Bob Scarborough.
and we are
The
the FAIRtax Guys.
Yes,
And
sir.
you will note that Nick Saban has loaned me his personal private jet, and I am on my way up there to Winston-Salem to get some Mr. Barbecue and cheer wine.
Yeah, buddy. Boy, oh
Uh,
boy.
I mean, this jet has everything, including
Cheer one.
cheer wine. So I've got it. No,
There you go, buddy.
actually, I just discovered that Zoom has a function in it when you can work on your background. But now you can get AI, artificial intelligence, to generate just an image of your choice. And I said, get me the interior of a luxury private jet. So this is actually an AI generated photo that Zoom made for me. And I'll tell you what, there's going to be some. I'm going to have some fun with this over the next few episodes of FAIRtax Power Radio. But
Bob Paxton, this disclaimer, Bob Paxton is not AI generated.
yeah, I'm not AI generated, but the background is the luxury jet here is, and the cheer wine is real. And so there we go. I just thought that was fun, so I'm going to try this and see what
Well,
we get for a while.
that's awesome. Yeah, love it. Love it. Great. Good to
All
have
right. Well,
you. Thanks for joining us today.
indeed. Well, this is streaming on Christmas Eve. So I hope that you and the missus have been enjoying the Florida citrus fruit that we sit up there. I tell you what, I look forward every year. There are two things that I really miss about North Carolina, actually three. One is the Moravian sugar cake, which I cannot get down here in Florida. And of course, the North Carolina barbecue, which I cannot get down here in Florida. And I can get the cheer wine. But I appreciate the goodie pack, and I try to reciprocate in kind for it. Oh, what's wrong with you?
Can't get so playing that violin, that sad violin of
No,
poor.
no, no. I've got my tier one, and I'm on my jet. I'm good. We need to get going here on FAIRtax Power Radio.
Do it. Hey, you'll have some sugar cake real soon. It's going out. It'll be going out this next week. Yeah.
Yes,
You'll
but by the time this stream airs, I will have probably eaten all of it. So
sit down in a whole setting and eat.
I I
Sugar.
can. I got to make sure I don't do that. And I'm sure you have noticed, but have been too polite to say anything about it. Yes, I am being Rudolph this week. That is the result of some anti-cancer cream that the dermatologist is making me use. And since we record two shows at once, I'll be Rudolph again next week as well. Hopefully, it'll all be gone by the next time we.
That's right.
But there we go. Let's get going here on FAIRtax Power Radio. As we always do, let us begin with our weekly look at Congress.gov, all of the crazy things that the Congress critters are trying to do to the tax code, and a preview for next week. Next week will be the last show of the calendar year, and we will be going through the 2024 Tax Proposal Hall of Shame. And we'll see if any of these things we think might be worthy of addition to that program. And we will start off today with H.R. 10400. This is almost 1040 with an extra zero on the end of it. This is from this is
1040.
yes, 10400, 1040. And this is from Representative Gwen Moore of Wisconsin to amend the Internal Revenue Code to clarify the definition of applicable educational institution for the purposes of the excise tax based on the income of private colleges and universities. So the tax code has to define what an educational institution is. How cool is that?
I got to tell you, what would we do without them?
All right, let's move on. This is H.R. 10380, and there's a companion bill in the Senate, S5457, that says the same thing. This is to amend the Internal Revenue Code to allow a portion of general business credit carry forward, something I'm not really familiar with, but to allow a portion of general business carry forwards to be transferred by certain taxpayers affected by federally declared disasters. That one comes from here in Florida, Greg Stevie,
Hmm?
at least the House version thereof.
With
So,
regard to the tax, with regard to the maneuvering and machinations and the details of the tax code and how you manage them, the code does allow you to carry losses forward from, say, a particular year to future years. Uh, Once you arrive there, you can look back and say, okay, we're gonna take that loss from 2 years ago and apply some of that to whatever current year you're in, and that way you
mhm.
had a great year 2 years from now, then you could throw some of that loss forward.
Why
Tax.
don't we just why don't we just get rid of all this complexity and pay your taxes at the cash register when you buy things?
That's the whole. That's it. That's
That's the whole reason we go through these things. We show the complexity of the tax code, the ever-changing nature of the tax code, and why we need to replace it with a fair tax. Moving along. HR 10373. Oh, here's another, would you believe, another tax credit. To amend the this wants to create a new one, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to create a tax credit for nurse preceptors. Nurse preceptors. I didn't know what that was. I looked it up, and it's basically an experienced nurse who is acting as a mentor to a younger nurse who's just getting into the business. And so the IRS wants to, of course, that's a nice thing to do, and folks like that deserve a break. But if a nurse preceptor deserves a tax credit, why doesn't a police officer? Why doesn't the guy who flies the life flight helicopter deserve one? If you start picking who's worthy of special treatment and who's not, you get a complicated mess. You get lobbyists left and right trying to come in and get favors for their particular client. It's nuts. We need to get rid of the entire system and replace it with a fair tax.
Well, now preceptors are essential because you learn all this stuff in college and nurse school, and when you get into the nitty gritty in the actual clinical setting, you got to have somebody that says, "Well, you might have learned it this way, but this is a better way
Mhm.
to do it." So
Yeah, I too, but I don't doubt for a second the preceptors are, necessary, essential kind of people, but they are not the only necessary, essential people. Why give certain necessary, essential people a tax credit and some others? That's just nuts. We need to treat everybody the same, and that's what the fair tax does. Moving on, S5478, the bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to increase the deduction for certain expenses of elementary and secondary school teachers and to allow equivalent deduction for home educators. Again, more vital, necessary people who are getting a tax break. But it's just like the other one. If those people deserve it, who else deserves it? Who doesn't deserve it? You don't want to get into that business. Treat everybody the same and just let everybody pay their taxes at the cash register. That's nuts.
easy. It would be so easy just to do that. And folks are really coming around to it. I see more people commenting and watching the videos on social media, and especially when Randy Fisher is in there engaging in people that are commenting on our social media posts across a broad spectrum of websites of social media pages. So kudos to Randy and anybody else that's out there that's bringing light to the actual benefit of HR 25, the fair tax, as opposed to what we're dealing with now. My goodness, why aren't we already doing this? Is it just going to take that long, do you think? I mean, next
Yeah.
year, two
My,
years?
my my goodness, why are we not already doing this? Was the exact reaction that my mother had when I explained the fair tax to her and let her read the book. It's that's the way that most people will react when they realize, gee, why aren't we doing this already? There are so many advantages. Bring home your whole paycheck. The government says no longer any business sticking their nose into your personal finances. You don't have to file a tax return anymore, and all of your the basic necessities are tax free. There's just nothing to dislike about the fair tax. Okay, last thing, S5466, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide an advance refundable credit, more complication to the system, to offset certain flood insurance premiums and your favorite phrase, for other purposes. That's Bill Cassidy of Louisiana.
I can imagine that somebody in Louisiana would want to have a way to offset certain flood insurance premiums that would help his district for sure.
That it would. All right. Well, let's move on here on FairTax Power Radio. Our time is getting away from us. We a couple of weeks ago we were, shall we say, lampooning and lambasting the Internal Revenue Service, and rightfully so, and painting that as a target-rich environment for this Department of Government Efficiency that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to be looking at here when the new Trump administration takes office. And I thought it would be fun. I just stuck a search into Google and said, crazy facts about the Internal Revenue Service. Let's look at this target-rich environment that hopefully that the Department of Government Efficiency will decide can and should go away. But I found this. This is from a site called, let's see, Fact Retriever.
Yes.
FACTRETRIEVER, Fact Retriever. It was written in 2017, so it's got a little bit of age on it. Let's see if I can give credit to the author, if I can pronounce his name right. Tanya Kulagowski, I believe is how you would pronounce that. And she came up with 60 interesting facts about the IRS. Obviously, we're not going to have time to go through all 60 of them. So just call that list up and just pick ones that strike your fancy. The one that jumps out at me is right near the top. It's number 2. In a Gallup poll, conducted in May of 2013, again, this was written in 2017, the IRS was the only government agency out of 9 to rank in the majority as poor in performance. Regarding the IRS, 27% of respondents said the IRS was excellent or good when it comes to performing their job. 29% chose only fair. 42% chose poor. So you add that 42 and 29 together, you get 71% thinks the IRS does a fair job at best at doing their job. That is a really good reason to get rid of it, especially since there's a much better alternative out there, the fair tax.
Absolutely. Not only that, the Internal Revenue Service is recognized as the world's largest financial institution, which is, I guess so, they carry guns in some cases. And the IRS has a special criminal investigation branch that's in 2017 made up of 3,500 employees worldwide, not just in the United States. They have 3,500 employees worldwide whose main job is to investigate tax and money laundering. Criminal investigation special agents have badges and are allowed to carry weapons, but don't have uniforms. Is that like concealed carry, I guess, maybe?
Yeah, that's so they can sneak up on you, I guess. But
well, here qualified retired CI agents are exempt from concealed weapon laws.
Wow.
I mean, they're retired and they're still packing heat.
Oh, mercy. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, again, we're looking for reasons to get rid of the Internal Revenue Service, and several of these, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all kind of dealing with the same thing. John Kennedy, President Kennedy, established the Ideological Organizations Audit Project at the IRS, which primarily investigated seemingly right-wing groups such as the Christian Anti-Communist Crusade, the American Enterprise Institute, Foundation for Economic Education. It says Franklin Roosevelt used the IRS to harass newspaper publishers who were opposed to his plans for the New Deal. He also used the IRS on political rivals and prominent Republicans, including an IRS audit of illegal campaign contributions made by a government contractor to Congressman and future President Lyndon Johnson. During his presidency, Richard Nixon encouraged a secret IRS program called the Special Services Staff, which investigated his political opponents as well as harassing them with audits. More than 10,000 individuals and groups were targeted between 1969 and 1973. And oh, mercy. And the second article of President Richard Nixon's impeachment charged him with endeavoring to obtain confidential information from income tax returns for unlawful purposes from the IRS in order to perform income tax audits and other income tax investigations in a discriminatory manner that violated the constitutional rights of U.S. citizens. Now, there are a number of good reasons for getting rid of the Internal Revenue Service. You'll note that both sides of the political aisle have used and will continue to use the Internal Revenue Service as a political weapon, something that should not happen in a free country. The IRS needs to go away because as long as that power is there, there will be the temptation to use it. And it's not it's not a political thing. Both sides of the aisle do it, and it needs to be taken away from everybody so they can't do that anymore. Get rid of the Internal Revenue Service and replace it with a fair tax. Amen. Your turn.
And yeah, my thing is what we said a minute ago. You get rid of the Internal Revenue Service, and why it may be so hard and everybody's standing back to do it is because it's used as a political tool that both parties use. It becomes, like, for instance, one of the top lists on this list, the FBI has been known to use the Internal Revenue Service to harass political opponents. In May of 2015, it was revealed that the Internal Revenue Service had targeted conservative nonprofit groups for increased scrutiny. The IRS is a government agency that consists of 4 primary divisions. Now, get this. This is how large this thing is. And can you imagine not having the specter of the Internal Revenue Service on you? The 4 primary divisions are wage and investment, large business and international, small business self-employed, that's the window washer, that's the one man plus one sole proprietorship HVAC guy, tax exempt government agencies is the 4th. The mission statement is, quote, to provide America's taxpayers top quality service by helping them understand and meet their tax responsibilities and enforce the law with integrity and fairness to all. Amen.
Is that a joke?
Yeah, I mean, but you think about it. Think about it, Bob. It's so hard for us to navigate, and we know from experience, and a lot of people do, and especially the huge businesses that have entire floors of their operation dedicated to dealing with the Internal Revenue Service, that even the Internal Revenue Service doesn't get 100% of each section of the complexity of the rules and regulations that we have to experience. Now, a small business might not have as much to do as a large business or an international business, but to think that an organization is out there that has the destructive power to tie up an individual. And what are you going to do? Are you going to fight them? No, you'll just go ahead and write the check for $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever the dollar amount is, whether you have the time. And that's the other thing. Time is money, of course. But here we are with challenges that face us in our daily operation of business. Then we have to turn around and put the regulatory hat on, compliance hat on with the Internal Revenue Service. I mean, my goodness. Enforce the law with integrity and fairness to all is part of their mission statement. And this article came back in 2017 from factretriever.com, looking for the IRS facts as being something that would be relevant to people. I think what we need to look at is how do we unravel this? And there's so many tentacles in and around the use of government agencies to investigate people or to tie people up, or they could ruin a business in a matter of just a few months. And that's one of the biggest challenges. You get the next one. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me skip down a little bit. This is crazy. This is number 16 and 17. When the income tax was fully established in 1913, the rate was 1%. and very few paid income tax at all to the IRS. It was required only if you made $3,000 or more a year. That was back in 1913. That was a lot of money. That year, only one out of 271 Americans had to pay any income tax at all. And when the IRS 1040 form was first introduced, it was only 3 pages. That included the instructions. And today, and in that case, today means in 2017, when this article is written, the 1040 has 101 pages of instructions alone. That is how monstrously out of control the tax code has grown. And we need to jerk it all out by the roots and replace it with 133, I think it may be down to 131 now, pages of the fair tax bill. And most of that is, detailing what laws are going to be repealed, because the fair tax bill actually repeals the statutory authority to collect an income tax. Of course, it can't change the Constitution. The 16th Amendment would still be in place, although the Fair Tax Bill requires that that be repealed in order for permanent implementation of the fair tax to take place. But think about it, when the first income tax first came out, only 3 pages long, the form was 3 pages long. Today, the instructions alone, are, 30 times that much and then some. Crazy.
Publication 17. The Internal Revenue Service ties up a lot. Of course, you have career bureaucrats, employees that are out there working in those departments and scattered all across the United States. Did you know that the Internal Revenue Service in 2017 sends out more than 8 billion pages in forms and instructions every year to the population? The website of the Revenue Service has almost 2,000 different forms and publications, and the code is approximately 3.7 million words in length. I don't know who counted them, but God bless you.
Well, that has grown since then. Again, this article was written in 2017, and number 20 jumps out at me as well. In 2014, 35% of calls to the IRS were unanswered by IRS customer service representatives. The tax code is just so crazy, people that cannot possibly understand it all. There are going to be questions, and you call the IRS, and there's a pretty good chance that if you call the number, they won't even talk to you. They won't answer your call. This entire system stinks. I cannot emphasize that too much. This entire system stinks on a number of levels. It must be replaced by the fair tax. It just has to be.
One thing that's not, that I haven't seen yet, and it may be in here somewhere, but we know that certain employees of the Internal Revenue Service have not paid their taxes. And
yeah, we did a program on that not long ago.
So those things are, I mean, when you think about it, government is running amok at many different levels. It's a nonpartisan issue. We are responsible, no matter our political leanings, of balancing our checkbook, of making sure we have enough money to get to the end of the month, put some away for savings, help our friends and neighbors in need in our communities. Yet here we have a government, and one of the agencies that's to collect all of this for the government is running a haphazard operation. And is it because that we haven't been totally honest in our duty as the citizens of this great country that we're in to actually go out and police those folks? They work for us. We provide the money. Of course, they print some that takes us into debt. But I mean, is it something that we need to be stepping up on? And maybe that's part of what the whole mission for Americans for Fair Taxation is all about in implementing H.R. 25, the fair tax, so that we can pare down what the government has become, a giant ball of spaghetti all tangled together.
All righty. Our time's getting away from us. We got less than 4 minutes left. I want to get to this one. If there was a hall of shame for IRS, actions and things they have done, this one would make it, I think. Number 36 on our list. IRS Commissioner Joseph Noonan Jr. made a bet that Harry Truman would win the presidential election. Of course, he won the bet. He won $1,800, but he failed to report his winnings, and that earned him a conviction for tax fraud in 1952.
Mercy. Yeah, I tell you what, the folks that work there, like I said, they have a big responsibility, and maybe what will happen is whatever our federal government from one side to the other looks like after a pare down. It might be something that we get people in there that are civic minded. But I think folks got in there and they said, well, nobody's watching the hen house, so we're going to do what we want to. And now all of a sudden, the citizenry is waking up to the fact that there's a lot of dysfunction out there in Washington, especially.
Take a look at number 38 there and see how many people that you recognize that have been involved in tax evasion cases.
Yeah, Willie Nelson, MC Hammer. It's hammer time. They brought the hammer down on the hammer time. Marion Barry, it was former mayor of D.C. Martha Stewart, Pete Rose. Well, we know the story of Pete Rose, God rest his soul. Nicolas Cage, Lil Wayne, rapper. Lindsay Lohan, Stephen Baldwin, one of the Baldwin brothers, O.J. Simpson, and Vanessa Williams. So nobody is out of the purview, the scrutiny, the detail of dealing with the Internal Revenue Service, no matter your status. You could be just one little guy like Bob and me, or you could be, somebody well known. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a target of an audit by the Internal Revenue Service from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Oh yeah, they got telephones. They can talk to each other. Get me Smith over at the IRS.
Indeed. Okay. Well, we've been looking at this article from FactRetriever.com. And so that we're out of time. We can't get any more, but there's lots of reason there that we need to get rid of the Internal Revenue Service. We hope that Elon and Vivek will come to that same conclusion, recommend that to the incoming Trump administration, and hopefully we can replace this entire giant mess with the fair tax. But again, that's Fact Retriever. You can go through the rest of the 60 interesting facts that we didn't get a chance to go to here on this program. And next week, here on FAIRtax Power Radio, hang on to your hats, fasten your seatbelts. We'll be going through the 2024 Tax Proposal Hall of Shame. And there's not quite as much in this year's version as there has been in past years, but there's still some pretty good stuff to go over. And we will see you next week here on FAIRtax Power Radio. Again, this is streaming on Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry Christmas to you, my good friend. And we will see everybody back here next week on FAIRtax Power Radio. Until we meet again, I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
We are the FAIRtax Guys, reminding you, as we always do, that the fair tax is the only truly fair tax. And once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So what do you need from me to get these taxes collected?
Glad you asked, because there is a fair amount of information you need to be aware of.
That's your tax plan?
Oh, no, this is just the revisions for this year's tax plan. What I need from you is you need to keep track of all of your income, as well as any taxes that you've already paid. Also, any gifts that you received or gifts you've given to churches or charities or individuals throughout the entire year. Do you do any side jobs?
Every now and again.
Great, because there's some more information about that right here. Everything you need to know right here. So just simply compile that, send it in to us. Be careful, make sure there's no mistakes. If we do find mistakes were made, we can fine you or, throw you in jail. So you might want to be aware of that.
And what do you need from me?
As an individual, nothing. As a business owner, or if you're doing side jobs, yes, you would have to collect taxes on that, but it's all right here.
Can I get a copy of that?